Steve was a good fit because he had experience coming from a school in Tennessee and also at Malvern Prep, and plus Steve had the ability to coach. And at that time, we were looking for teachers who could both teach and coach in our school. We needed to maximize someone's talent when they came to school. Plus, Steve was a graduate of the school, which also went in his favor.
My first experiences with Steve Valyo were as a student. So I had started here at Malvern in the fall of '83.
Well, Steve was my first experience of Malvern Prep mathematics.
I met Steve back in 1987 as a freshman. Steve was the dean of students, but I didn't get the opportunity to really know him through that since I didn't have any detentions. But he was also the freshman football coach, and being that that was a fall sport, he was one of the first teachers that I had the opportunity to begin developing a relationship with.
When I first met Steve Valyo, I'd have to say the first thing that came to my mind was what an incredible tan he had. I mean, it was just incredible, you know, I mean.
I've worked with Steve for 17 years.
When I was a student, Steve was, you know, he still taught, but he didn't teach a lot of classes. So not many kids had him as a teacher, but we dealt with him more as an administrator.
One of the things that I remember most about Steve during my time here was there was a period of time during my senior year where I lost a lot of weight. And I would go home and my parents would ask me, why are you losing so much weight? You know, and I would tell them that they gave, you know, the lunch money that they gave me, unfortunately, was going to Steve Valyo. And my mother would say, what do you mean, Steve Valyo? And I said, you know, at the end of every math test, I would bet Mr. Valyo what my grade would be. He would always pull out his red pen. He would say F for Frank, and we would negotiate what my grade would be. And unfortunately, I always came on the downside, and I'd have to bet Steve my lunch money.
Very tough, very tough. But again, there's a fine line between being tough and unreasonable, and being tough, demanding, and also showing a sense of care. And that was Steve. I always knew with Steve that he certainly demanded things from us, from me. But I also knew that he cared.
And you know, he's always trying to do what's in the best interest of students. The one thing I've really come to respect about Steve is that he takes it personal with students if they're not doing well in his classroom.
Probably one of my more memorable moments with Steve is the fact that as an administrator, I often found him first thing in the morning working with students before the day even got started, or even late in the afternoon working with students, because Steve, I think, always puts the students first.
So I got to see another side of him being over here, and that was him as really a mentor for students. He's a teacher here in the upper school, as everybody knows, and there was constantly a parade of students that were coming in to see him during break for extra help. And I don't know how many people know this about him, but he cares deeply for his students and whether they succeed in class. So frequently I'll hear him across the hall grading tests and getting upset and frustrated because, you know, he had seen a kid work hard, and if he doesn't do well in the test, that really affects Steve in a big way.
But like each year when he prepares for this basketball game at the end of the year, he's like, you would think he was preparing for an NBA playoff game. Like it's like, okay, now we need to get more guys on the team, and like, you know, are you in? He's calling people, and you know, he worries about like making sure the shirts are right, and you know, are you okay to play? Like he is asking, he knows the guys that are good players, and he gets really disappointed when either they say no or they can't play because they're hurt or for whatever. So it's a really big thing, this basketball game.
You know, when we started doing the faculty basketball games with the seniors, and I was in the middle school, and he's calling me, he's like, are you playing? And I said, well, no, I don't think so because I'm in the middle school. He said, no, we need you got to be over here. And he's talking to me weeks beforehand, and you've been working out, and you train. I'm thinking, is he serious for the basketball game? And then we get to the game, he's got his starting lineup, and he's doing pregame stuff with us, and I was like, man, this guy's really serious for this. So right away, my initiation was, this is not a fun event. This is like, you better win at all costs.
The faculty senior games were big. Steve would coach. Steve would coach those games, and Steve would send emails out saying, we're not losing this year, and those games were heated. And I'll tell you what, and as I got older and kept playing in those games, I mean, the next day, the next 2 days, I had a hard time getting out of bed.
And then from his coaching in the senior faculty game, you know, it's kind of funny how our last 3 years we've lost to the seniors, and now Steve's kind of, you know, rolling out the door here. So I don't know if one of those things are tied together. Wins and losses mean a lot.
Well, at lunchtime, instead of eating lunch, we would go to the Dockery Hall Gymnasium and play basketball. And included in that group would be Gibber, Jeff Eulings, myself, Steve Valyo, Frank Ryan, and others.
Steve and I probably first became close playing basketball during the 7th period pickup games. It was Bernie Driscoll, Jim Kirshner, myself, and Steve.
We would play. We would play during lunch. I remember Tim Doherty when he first started here got elbowed by a fellow colleague, and he's walking around with a black eye the whole rest of the day. But those were fun. In my first couple of years of being at Malvern, every 7th period we would get together, play basketball in Doherty Hall. And I always knew how I did in the game the next day, because if I had a sub on my desk, I knew we beat them. And any day he beat me, I didn't have a sub. So
More often than not, it was a 3-on-3 full court contest. And Steve was an extremely tough competitor. Even given his size, he always managed some way to get his shot off. Steve was Frank's assistant, and Frank carried a bat and a whip around at the time. Not that he ever used those things. And I think Steve was the guy picking up the mess for Frank after things were to happen. In fact, they even had a nickname for Steve. They called him Secret Squirrel.
You know, Steve, when Steve was dean of students, there were rumors about him. He was very heavily focused on the dress code. And I believe that he also had an outfit that he liked to wear, and I think the Secret Squirrel was his name, they used to call him. And I think that included a serious pair of glasses, maybe a mustache that, I don't know if the students knew it was fake or real, but he had that mustache and the trench coat.
Yeah, Steve's nickname when I was a student here as the assistant dean of students was the Secret Squirrel, and he walked around with the trench coat.
I asked him to do a Malvern Fun video, and he showed up in a trench coat, and he put his desk outside where it used to be in Dennis. So the creativity was appreciated. I would have thought to never ask Mr. Valyo to do something like that, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And he was just trying to, be nostalgic for our alums who remember him as the dean of students and the Secret Squirrel, as they called him.
As a dean of students, I remember the story when I had my first graffiti written about me in the bathroom wall. Some very nice things were written about me above the bathroom stall. And then Steve came to me and said, well, Whit, you finally made it.
Malvern has always thrived on the fact that that strong family ties and strong relationships with the teachers and the administration here really solidified the education for the student. We thought in the 70s that we were the only ones. We thought we brought it to Malvern, but we have since found out, having interviewed graduates from year past, that the family atmosphere has always existed at Malvern and continues to do so today. It's one of the key components to help Malvern grow and become even better.
Steve's always been about the family and the Malvern family, and that always is something that's come off to me from day one. Steve, Paul Hornsleth, Frank Ryan, that whole crew, as I was coming in 20 years ago, took me under their wing, taught me what it meant to be Malvern, how to be a family.
But I had the good fortune at my senior year, the last test, I made a bet with him, and the bet was if I won, he had to play me in a game of basketball. So Steve and I went up to Doherty Hall. We had a game of one-on-one in front of all 69 students of the class of 1991. We had a game of one-on-one. If I won, he had to buy the entire class a pizza for everyone. If I lost, I had to continue paying his lunch for the rest of the year. And I was fortunate that I beat him by 5 points.
When I was here, Frank Ryan was the head disciplinarian, if you will, and Steve was, I guess, the assistant disciplinarian, and they both kind of worked hand in hand. And the discipline office used to be on the bottom floor of Tollentine, where the bookstore was. And I tell the story. I said there were two big windows, and they had blinds. And you knew if the blinds were drawn, there was probably a student in there. And believe me, back then.
And Steve always did a nice job of trying to make me look good. So I remember this one story in particular where he had asked me to come talk to this group of seniors in a classroom, and I said I would do that. So I went with him. He accompanied me, and as I was closing the door, he just lit into the kids and told them they had to be acting a little bit more responsibly and appropriately. And then here he goes to prove a point. He chucks this lacrosse stick across the room, hits me in the back of the head.
But senior year, I did have a little bump in the road, I think Steve would call it. My grades first quarter, I kind of slacked off. Senioritis hit me a little earlier than it probably should have. I had already known I was going to college and kind of let some things slide. And both my parents were brought in for a meeting, and they were not yet aware of how bad the situation was. And when they were made aware, my dad is a very vocal guy, very hands-on, I guess you could say. And I always remember I owe Steve my life from that day forward, because he really did calm my dad down.
But one of my favorite things about Steve, I don't know how well this is known, but I think this is always funny. One little thing he taught me, we've done a lot of interviews together, and as either head of the middle school or head of the upper school, you're always hiring new teachers. So the interview process can be long and drawn out. It's also very exciting, but every once in a while you get not a great interview, and you're not really quite sure how to handle that. So Steve's method is pretty straightforward. As the person we're interviewing is turned away answering another question, he'll lean back on his chair and just roll his eyes. And we all get the signal that this interview is probably not going to go much longer.
Steve Value's legacy here at Malvern Prep will be one of commitment. You know, in my perspective, there's no one here that has embraced the commitment and the values that he has brought to Malvern. You know, as I said, as a student that graduated in 1970, coming back as a teacher in the mid-70s, and then obviously investing a significant amount of his personal time and energy to the school in various capacities, in administration roles as well as teaching roles. That there's nobody in my perspective that has that whole facet of student, alumni, faculty, teacher, administrator, and has given so much to the school that when people come back here, Steve Valyo is one of those first teachers and faces that you look for as an alumnus, because you know he stands for the values of Malvern Prep.
I think he'll be remembered as a trusted alum, a great motivator, and a respected leader full of integrity.
Steve Valyo's legacy at Malvern Prep is several things. I don't think I have enough time on this tape to kind of go through all of them. Steve Valyo is about loyalty. Steve Valyo is about care. Steve Valyo is about discipline and hard work. And Steve Valyo has loved Malvern, and he's loved these kids. And that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed in any of the years that Steve Valyo has been here. And it's evident. It's evident of the kids he's had. Steve Valyo is about Malvern. And Steve loves this place. Loves this place. And you could see it. You could feel it. And he's really touched a lot of lives, both on the faculty, staff, and especially the students.
Yeah, so Steve Valyo's legacy at Malvern Prep, I think, is unparalleled. There's a lot of connections there that he has to the school. So certainly he went to school here, and he went to school here at a very different time than what we have here now. Believe it or not, we had a lot more diversity, and we actually had some boarders that were living here. And I think Steve likes to be able to talk about that as something that we can't lose sight of, that kind of connectivity to our past. And I think that's a great thing. And because he's an alum of Malvern, he has that really deep-seated attraction and connection to the school, its history, and our mission. And that's something he never wavers from. This is something that's a passion of his. So everything that we do now in his role as an administrator always kind of reverts back to tying things together, that bigger picture. He never addresses an issue or a problem as just a specific thing that's kind of a flicker in time. While there's an element to that, he always likes to try to look at that as a bigger picture. How does this tie in with what we have stood for years and what we need to continue to stand for? So the legacy that he really leaves behind as an administrator, I think, is really unparalleled, and schools all across the country are looking for people like that, and we've been very blessed to have somebody like that. He's somebody who's committed to the school personally as an alum. He's committed to the school as a teacher. He's taught for the whole time he's been here, and he's been very committed to making sure that as an administrator, any decision that we make is certainly mission driven, but it connects to what we have stood for in the past, what we are continuing to stand for now, and what we really need to make sure that we maintain going forward.
Steve's legacy is going to be, I think, trifold. First is his relationship with the faculty and how he has built a strong following from his faculty. Second is a well-respected mathematics teacher and usually a high-level course pre-calc or honor pre-calc. And finally with the students, and how he found time to be with students who needed his help almost on a daily basis. You can find him working with a student.
So, Steve, I want to personally thank you for everything you've done for me over my existence here at Malvern Prep. As I said, as a student, as a alumnus, as the alumni president and current trustee, you have done omen's work in making sure that you've represented Malvern to its finest. I hope that you, Charlotte, and your family enjoy this next phase of your life. I hope you play a lot of golf. I hope your golf game does improve because I look forward to playing you multiple times over the summer. And I hope that you really do get to spend some time to do the things that you enjoy doing because you've earned it. You've done so much for our school. We're very fortunate to have had you in many different capacities and leadership. And everything you've done for our school, we can't pay you back enough. So thank you again for being a friend, for being a mentor, for being a teacher, and for someone that I respect.
So, Steve, I'm telling you right now, you're going to be missed here sorely by a lot of people, and I know that, I feel that, but I know I'm going to miss you personally as well. You've really been a great mentor for me. You've taken me under your wing. You've taught me a lot about what it really means to be a Malvern man, and certainly what it means to be a teacher here at Malvern, what the expectations are for that, which is going the extra mile, connect to students, and really get to know them. And then certainly you've taught me a ton about being an administrator here and making sure that we keep this tradition going at Malvern and that we keep our eyes on that future and where we're going. So I'm going to miss you terribly. I know you're going to be doing some great things going forward, and I also know that you're going to play a lot more golf. I'm happy for you for that. So the only advice I have for you is stay out of the woods and out of the rough and keep it in the fairway. So good luck.
Steve Valyo, thank you so much for everything you've done for me over the years. This is obviously bittersweet for all of us, but I feel so honored and blessed to have had you early on in my Malvern career as a student, and feel equally honored and blessed to have worked here and to be able to call you a colleague and a friend. You're about loyalty, you always have. You're about Malvern. You've always loved Malvern. You always will. I wish you the best of luck, Steve. I thank you for being a part of our program, for being a part of our community, for being a part of my life. I appreciate it, and I'm sure I speak on the behalf of everyone here. We thank you for everything you've done.
Steve, hopefully you're enjoying this day because you certainly deserve it after many hard working years here at Malvern Prep. And I can't tell you how much I really have valued your friendship and your loyalty to me when I was an administrator at the school. And I believe I commented on an earlier video today by Jamie that one of the 3 words that reminded you most was Malvern. I think you are Malvern and you've represented Malvern very well, and hopefully you will continue to hold Malvern in your heart as you go forward and enjoy a little bit of golf and time with Charlotte and your family.
Steve, just a quick one, thank you as a former student here. Thank you for what you've done for this school over the years. You've made all of us proud, all of your fellow alumni proud to come back to a place and spend your life here and give your life to this place and to give so much time. And I want you to know that it's very much appreciated, and I hope that you know that there are thousands of people out there, alums and your fellow colleagues, that are fully aware of what you've done for this place, and I hope you never forget that. And also hope that you are aware that my door is open and that you are obviously welcome back here anytime to continue to instill that sense of family that you did over the years, because you had a lot to do with what this place is today, and you're the man.
Steve, I can't thank you enough for the friendship, the leader that you've helped me become, the guidance you've had with me in life. You've been a great, true friend, and someone that I enjoy talking with on a daily basis and getting his opinion from. I wish you only the best in your retirement as you move into this next chapter of your life. and hope that you and Charlotte have a great time visiting with the grandkids and enjoying your golf days. And just know that we'll always miss you, and that I hopefully will always stay in contact with you. Good luck.
Steve, just want to say thank you. You know, words can't express the gratitude, the thanks, and just the pleasure that I've experienced working with you. You've been a great mentor, a great friend. You know, I'm very sad that Malvern is losing such a great person, but I know that you got a bright future ahead of you, and you'll succeed no matter what you do. So thank you, and you will be missed.
You may be leaving Malvern, but you left an indelible mark. As a student, teacher, disciplinarian, coach, head of upper school, assistant head of school, but most importantly, friend and mentor. And I'd like to say, I hope all your putts continue to fall. I hope you hit every fairway. I hope you continue to stay away from all hazards. Best wishes for the future.
Gentlemen, I think you all know why you're here today. Thank you so much for your support, your time, talent, and treasure to Malvern Prep.